An Amish barn built in 1887 is still standing. The modern house built on the lot next to it in 1987 has already been renovated twice. The difference is not luck. It is 10 specific building techniques that the construction industry abandoned in favor of faster and cheaper, and has been quietly paying for ever since. Mortise and tenon joinery. The mortise and tenon joint is 5,000 years old. The Amish use it on every structural connection in every building they raise. A tenon, a precisely cut tongue of wood, is fitted into a mortise, a matching pocket cut into the receiving piece. No screws, no metal brackets, no adhesive. Two pieces of wood locked together by geometry and fit so precise that the joint is stronger than either piece individually. Modern construction replaced this with metal fasteners because metal fasteners are faster to install. They are not stronger, they are not more durable, and they corrode. Drawboring. Drawboring is what happens after the mortise and tenon joint is cut. The Amish drill a hole through the assembled joint, then disassemble it, and re-drill the hole in the tenon slightly offset, shifted a fraction of an inch from the mortise hole's position. When a wooden peg is driven through both holes, the offset forces the joint to close completely and pull tight. As the wood dries and shrinks over subsequent months and years, the joint does not loosen. It tightens. The peg is not holding the joint together from the outside, it is pulling it together from within, using the wood's own movement as a mechanical advantage. Modern builders replace this with wood glue, which bonds wood fibers on contact and releases them under sustained stress, moisture, and age. A drawboard joint from 1880 is still tight today. A glued joint from 1990 may already be separating. Hand-hewn timber framing. When an Amish timber framer selects a log, the first thing he does is read it. He looks at the grain, the direction the fibers run, the tightness of the growth rings, the way the tree responded to the wind load it carried for decades. Then he hews it by hand, following the grain rather than cutting across it, using a broadaxe to remove material in a way that leaves the wood's structural fibers intact along the length of the beam. A sawmill does not do this. A sawmill cuts straight lines regardless of grain direction, severing fibers at whatever angle they happen to lie. A machine-sawn beam is dimensionally precise and structurally compromised at every point where the cut crossed the grain at an angle. A hand-hewn beam is dimensionally irregular and structurally complete, following the wood's own architecture rather than imposing a geometry on it. The hand-hewn beams in Amish barns that are still standing after 150 years are not still standing despite being hand-hewn. They are still standing because of it. Wood seasoning. The Amish do not build with wood that was a living tree 6 months ago. They cut timber and they wait. Greenwood wood that is not fully dried and stabilized continues to shrink, twist, and move after it is incorporated into a structure. Joints that fit perfectly when cut open as the wood dries. Boards that lie flat when installed cup and bow as moisture leaves them unevenly. Structures built from green lumber are structures that are constantly fighting against themselves. The Amish season their timber for a minimum of 2 years before building with it, often longer for structural members. Kiln drying, the modern industry's solution to the seasoning problem, accelerates moisture removal but does not replicate what slow natural drying does to wood's cellular structure. Kiln-dried lumber has residual stresses introduced by the speed of the drying process. Slowly air-dried timber does not. The difference is visible in how the wood behaves under load over decades and in how long a structure built from each type remains stable without intervention. Hand-cut dovetail joinery. The dovetail joint is the reason Amish drawers do not fall apart. Two interlocking pieces of wood, one cut with a series of angled tails, the other with matching pins, are fitted together so that the geometry of the joint resists every direction of force simultaneously. Pull the drawer open and the angled tails resist separation in exactly the direction the load is applied. The joint physically cannot be pulled apart under normal use because the geometry prevents it. Modern furniture manufacturing replaced hand-cut dovetails with machine-cut versions and then replaced those with stapled butt joints because staples are faster. A staple joint holds two pieces of wood together with metal driven into end grain, the weakest possible connection in any piece of timber. End grain does not hold fasteners. It absorbs them and releases them under repeated stress. Every piece of furniture assembled with staples is carrying a countdown from its first day of use. Every piece assembled with hand-cut dovetails is not. Amish craftsmen cut dovetails by hand to fit for every drawer in every piece of furniture they build. The angle is marked with a sliding bevel, cut with a dovetail saw, and paired to final fit with a chisel. The process takes 20 minutes per joint. It produces a connection that will outlast the person who made it by generations. Steam bending. When an Amish craftsman needs a curved structural or decorative element, he does not laminate thin strips of wood together and glue them into a curve. He takes a single piece of straight grain timber, exposes it to steam in a simple steam box for 1 hour per inch of thickness, and bends it around a form while the heat and moisture have made the wood's lignin temporarily pliable. When it cools, it holds the curve permanently without any cuts, without any glue, and with every structural fiber along its length still intact. A laminated curve is as strong as its glue lines, which is to say, it is as strong as the adhesive holding thin strips together distributed across the curve's full length. A steam-bent curve is as strong as solid wood, because it is solid wood, shaped rather than assembled. Modern furniture manufacturers abandon steam bending because it requires skill, time, and a steam box. The Amish kept it because they understood what replacing it with lamination actually costs in structural terms and refused to make that trade. Hand-planed and hand-finished surfaces. A hand-planed wood surface is not simply smoother than a sanded surface. It is structurally different at the microscopic level. Sanding abrades wood fiber, it tears the cellular structure at the surface into a rough, open texture that absorbs finishes, moisture, and contaminants. A hand plane, set correctly and driven with skill, does not abrade, it shears. The blade slices cleanly across the wood surface, leaving the cells intact, compressed, and effectively sealed by the burnishing action of the cut. A hand-planed surface requires less finish to seal it because it has partially sealed itself. The finish that is applied penetrates more evenly and bonds more completely. Modern woodworking shops replaced hand planes with belt sanders and random orbital sanders because sanding is faster and requires less skill. The result is furniture and building components that require more chemical finish to appear smooth and sealed, absorb moisture more readily when that finish degrades, and show wear faster than their hand-planed equivalents. Amish craftsmen hand-planed every surface that will be visible and every joint surface that will be glued, not because they are performing a tradition, but because the result is measurably superior to every mechanical alternative available. The community barn raising. A timber frame barn raised by 50 Amish men working together is not simply a barn built without cranes. It is a structure assembled at human scale, by human hands, fitted and adjusted in real time by people who can see and feel every joint as it goes together. When a beam does not seat fully into its mortise, the man holding it knows immediately and corrects it before the next piece goes in. When a brace is slightly out of plumb, the team adjusts the frame before it is pegged. The feedback loop between the builders and the structure is continuous and immediate because the builders are in direct contact with every component. A crane-assembled structure is fitted at the distance of cable and hook, adjusted through radio communication, and inspected after the fact rather than during assembly. The Amish barn raising produces a structure where every connection has been hand-checked, hand-fitted, and hand-pegged by experienced craftsmen working at the pace of careful assembly rather than the pace of machinery. Modern contractors cannot replicate this process, not because they lack the knowledge, but because the labor model that makes it possible, 50 skilled men working cooperatively without pay, does not exist outside a community. Built on mutual obligation, integrated stone foundation and cellar. An Amish home is built on a stone foundation that extends below the frost line and transitions directly into a root cellar that functions as the household's primary cold storage system. The stone, dry stacked or mortared, depending on the district, has a thermal mass that absorbs heat slowly and releases it slowly, moderating the temperature at the base of the house year-round without any mechanical system. The cellar maintains between 32 and 50 degrees Fahrenheit through the natural insulation of the surrounding earth, cold enough to preserve vegetables, dairy, and cured meats for months. The foundation and the storage system are the same structure performing two functions simultaneously. Modern building practice separates these functions entirely. Poured concrete foundations are structural only, and food storage is handled by refrigerators consuming electricity continuously. The Amish solution requires no energy input after construction, maintains itself indefinitely with minimal maintenance, and produces a foundation that in many documented cases is still fully functional after 150 years. Poured concrete foundations, by contrast, are subject to cracking, heaving, and water infiltration in ways that stone foundations, properly laid and properly drained, are not. Several Amish communities in Ohio and Pennsylvania are currently occupying homes built on stone foundations laid in the 1870s that have required no structural intervention since construction. Passive solar orientation. An Amish home is not placed on its lot arbitrarily. It is oriented with its longest wall facing south, its deepest roof overhangs on the south side, and its smallest windows on the north. This is not an aesthetic preference, it is applied physics. In winter, the low southern sun penetrates deep into the south-facing rooms through windows positioned to capture it, warming the stone floors and thick walls that store that heat and release it through the night. The deep roof overhang, calibrated to the latitude at which the house sits, blocks the high summer sun from entering those same windows while admitting the low winter sun fully. The result is a house that is warmer in winter and cooler in summer than an identically constructed house oriented without regard to solar angle. Natural ventilation is achieved through the placement of windows on opposing walls at different heights. Cool air enters low on the shaded north side. Warm air exits high on the south side through operable vents, and the temperature differential drives continuous air movement without fans. Modern residential construction in most American subdivisions orients houses to the street regardless of compass bearing, installs identical window placement on all four walls, and compensates for the resulting thermal inefficiency with HVAC systems that run continuously. The Amish house manages its own climate. The modern house pays someone else to manage it every month for as long as anyone lives in it. The apprenticeship. Every technique in this video is transmitted the same way it has always been transmitted, not through YouTube tutorials, not through trade school curricula, not through certification programs, through watching, then doing again until the doing becomes automatic. An Amish boy enters his father's workshop before he is 10 years old. He does not receive instruction in the academic sense. He receives proximity. He watches the plane moving across the grain. He watches the chisel paring a mortise to final fit. He hands tools, holds pieces, sweeps shavings, and absorbs through years of daily presence the specific physical knowledge of what good work looks and feels like before he has the strength or skill to produce it himself. By the time he is 16, he has 10,000 hours of observed craftsmanship behind him and several thousand hours of supervised practice. By the time he is 20, he can execute every technique in this video to a standard that most modern trade school graduates will never reach. Because trade schools teach procedure, and the Amish apprenticeship transmits judgment, the felt sense of when a joint is right, when a surface is ready, when a beam is true. That judgment cannot be certified. It can only be earned across years of work beside someone who already has it. The green building movement, the passive house standard, the timber frame revival, the natural building community, each of these modern architectural movements is, in one form or another, rediscovering something the Amish never stopped doing. Passive house certification rewards buildings designed to manage their own climate through orientation and thermal mass. Timber frame construction has returned as a premium building method specifically because the structures it produces outlast conventional framing by generations. Dovetail joinery is experiencing a renaissance among custom furniture makers who market it explicitly as a return to pre-industrial quality. Hand-planed surfaces command a significant price premium in custom millwork. Steam-bent components appear in furniture priced at multiples of their laminated equivalents. Every one of these rediscoveries carries a price premium in the modern market because the knowledge required to execute them was nearly lost when the construction industry optimized for speed and volume in the 20th century. The Amish did not lose it. They kept it in continuous practice, in living workshops, passed from father to son and master to apprentice across the same generations, during which the broader industry was abandoning it. The techniques in this video are not secrets in the sense of being hidden. They are secrets in the sense of being forgotten, present in plain sight, in every Amish barn and furniture shop in Pennsylvania and Ohio, available to anyone who walks in and watches a craftsman work. The only thing that makes them secret is that most of the world stopped looking.